Hello students, let us come to the next chapter, contents of vertebral canal. So first of all, we should know about the vertebral canal. When vertebrae are put in a sequence, their vertebral foramina lie one below the another, forming a continuous canal which is known as vertebral canal. This canal contains three meninges along with their spaces and spinal cord, including the chorda equina, that is the last part of the spinal cord. And in contrast, intervertebral foramina are a pair of foramina between the pedicels of adjacent vertebrae. Each foramen contains dorsal and ventral root of the nerve trunk, and dorsal and ventral rami, along with the spinal vessels which also enter through these foramen into the vertebral canal. Contents of vertebral canal. Vertebral canal contain following structures as we go from outer to inner side. First of all, epidural space. It is a space present between the bone and the dura mater, which is visible in this grey color. Second structure is thick dura mater, then subdural space, then delicate arachnoid matter, wider subarachnoid space, then firm pia mater, and then comes the spinal cord. So first is epidural space. Epidural space is present between the bony canal and the dura mater. Bony canal is lined with ligaments and the periosteum. It contains loose areolar tissue, semi-liquid fat, spinal arteries which reaches the deeply present spinal cord, and the internal vertebral venous plexus, which is visible in this blue color. Network of veins is present in this area. Spinal arteries arise from different sources or different arteries at different levels, which runs along the length of the spinal cord. These arteries enter into the vertebral canal through these intervertebral foramina and supply the spinal cord, nerve roots, meninges and periosteum. And the venous blood of these structures is drained by epidural or internal vertebral plexus, which are present here. Spinal dura mater. Spinal dura mater is a thick, tough, fibrous membrane which forms a loose sheath around the spinal cord. It is continuous above with the meningeal layer of the cerebral dura mater. The endosteal layer of cerebral dura mater remains confined to the cerebrum only up to the foramen magnum. Spinal dura mater, which is shown in this green color in the diagram, it extends up to the lower border of second sacral vertebra, whereas the spinal cord, it ends at the level of first lumbar vertebra or upper border of the L2 vertebra. Dura mater give tubular prolongations on the dorsal and ventral root of the spinal nerves as they pass through the intervertebral foramina. So here in this diagram we can see this is the area of the nerve roots. So it is covered by dura mater, and here both the nerve roots combine to form a single spinal nerve. So it is also covered by a layer of dura mater. Subdural space. Subdural space is a potential space or capillary space, means a narrow space present between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater. It contains a thin layer of serous fluid. The space permits movement of the dura mater over the arachnoid mater. This space is continued for a short distance over the nerve roots of the spinal nerve. Next is arachnoid mater. Arachnoid matter is a thin, delicate and transparent membrane that loosely surrounds the entire central nervous system. So this layer is arachnoid matter. It is loosely attached to the dura but firmly attached to the dura at places where some structures pierces this membrane, like the arteries which pierce this membrane to reach the spinal cord. So at that area this layer is tightly attached to the dura mater, and also at the ligamentum denticulatum this layer is tightly attached to the dura mater. Subarachnoid space. Subarachnoid space is a wide space present between the arachnoid matter and the pia mater. It contains CSF. It surrounds the brain and spinal cord like a water cushion. Spinal subarachnoid space is more wider as compared to the cerebral subarachnoid space. It is widest below the lower end of the spinal cord, where it encloses the cauda equina. Lumbar puncture is usually done in the lower, wider part of the space between the third lumbar vertebra and the fourth lumbar vertebrae. So what is a lumbar puncture? Lumbar puncture is also known as spinal tap. It is a medical procedure in which a needle is inserted into the spinal canal, that is the subarachnoid space of the spinal canal, in order to collect the cerebrospinal fluid for diagnostic purpose. The main reason of the lumbar puncture is to diagnose the diseases of central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord. Then third covering is of pia mater. So this red color covering around the spinal cord is pia mater. It is thicker, firmer and less vascular than the cerebral pia. In spinal cord also, the pia mater is made up of two layers. Outer layer is epipia, which is shown by this black outline. It contains large vessels, and inner layer is pia glya or pia intima, which is in contact with the nervous tissue of the spinal cord. Between these two layers of the pia mater there are many small blood vessels and also spaces which communicate with the subarachnoid space, which is present just outer to the pia mater. Pia mater closely invests the spinal cord and continue beyond the spinal cord in the form of filum terminale, which is visible in the form of this red colored streak or thin line. In this transverse section of the spinal cord, we can see in the anterior aspect the spinal cord is divisible into right and left two halves by the presence of anterior median fissure, and in the same manner towards the posterior aspect there is presence of posterior median septum, which is present in the median plane and divide the spinal cord into right and left halves. And in the same manner within the subarachnoid space there is presence of incomplete subarachnoid septum, which is also present in the median plane. So posteriorly, the pia mater is adherent to the posterior median septum of the spinal cord and is also connected to the arachnoid mater by fenestrated or incomplete subarachnoid septum. It means pia mater is attached on the inner aspect to the spinal cord, and in the outer aspect it is attached to the arachnoid mater. In the anterior aspect of the spinal cord, pia mater is folded into anterior median fissure. At the mouth of the fissure, It forms a median longitudinal band known as linea splendens. On each side between the ventral and dorsal nerve root, pia forms a narrow vertical ridge known as ligamentum denticulatum. The word dentate means a structure resembles to tooth. So the ligamentum denticulatum is so named because it gives off a series of triangular tooth-like processes which projects from its lateral free border. So this is a tooth-like process. So it is a part of the ligamentum denticulatum. Each ligament, this is one ligamentum denticulatum and this is another ligamentum denticulatum. So each ligament is having 21 processes throughout its length. The first lies at the level of the foramen magnum and last lies at the level of between 12th thoracic and first lumbar spinal nerve. Each process extends from dura mater, passes through subarachnoid space, then through the arachnoid mater and reaches the dura mater. And each process is present between the two adjacent spinal nerves. So these are the two nerves which are shown, and between these two nerves extends the one process of ligamentum denticulatum. These processes suspends the spinal cord in the middle of the subarachnoid space. Means these ligaments of the pia mater, these holds the spinal cord in this wider subarachnoid space that is filled by fluid CSF. So next is filum terminale. This red color structure which is visible, so this is the extension of pia mater beyond the spinal cord. It is a delicate thread-like structure about 20 centimeters long. It extends from apex of the conus medullaris to the dorsum of first piece of the coccyx vertebra. So here we can see S5, that is the last segment of the sacrum. Below it lies the first piece of coccyx vertebra, and to the dorsum of that coccyx vertebra, this filum terminale, it gets attached. Filum terminale is chiefly consists of pia mater, but it also contains few rudiments of second and third coccygeal nerve in its upper part. Central canal, which is present within the spinal cord, extends into the upper part of filum terminale for about 5 millimeters. The whole length of filum terminale is divisible into two parts. Upper part which lies within the dura mater and lower part which is present or which extends beyond the dura mater. The part which extends from lower border of L1 vertebra where spinal cord is terminating to the lower border of S2 vertebra where dura mater is ending, that part is known as filum terminale internum. And the part lying outside the dural sheath means beyond the lower border of S2 vertebra up to first coccygeal vertebra, that part is known as filum terminale externum. Filum terminale internum is 20 centimeters long and filum terminale externum is 5 centimeters long. Pia mater surrounds the nerve roots which are crossing through the subarachnoid space and also surrounds the vessels which enter into the substance of the spinal cord for its supply. Spinal nerves. Spinal cord gave rise to 31 pairs of the spinal nerves. 8 arise from the cervical area, 12 from thoracic area, 5 from lumbar, 5 from sacral and 1 from the coccyx area. Each nerve is attached to the spinal cord by two roots, ventral root and dorsal root. Dorsal root of each nerve bears a ganglion over it. Ventral root and dorsal root unite in the intervertebral foramen to form the nerve trunk, which soon divides into ventral and dorsal rami. Uppermost nerve roots passes almost horizontally from the spinal cord to reach the intervertebral foramina. Lower down, they have to pass with increasing obliquity as the spinal cord is much shorter than the whole length of the vertebral column. Below the termination of the spinal cord, at the level of first lumbar vertebra, the obliquity becomes more marked. Below the lower end of the spinal cord, the roots form a bundle known as cauda equina, as its shape resembles to tail of a horse. Roots of the spinal nerves, these are surrounded by meninges. Pia mater and arachnoid mater, these covers the roots up to the dura mater. Dural sheath encloses the terminal part of root, continue over the nerve trunk and is lost by merging with the apineurium of the nerve. Apineurium is the outermost layer of dense connective tissue surrounding a peripheral nerve. So dura mater, it merges with the apineurium when the nerve leaves the intervertebral foramen. Contents of interventricular foramen are the ends of nerve roots. So here we can see anterior and posterior nerve roots. Posterior nerve root is bearing a ganglion, dorsal root ganglion, which is also present here. Then both these nerve roots combine together to form the nerve trunk. Then nerve trunk further subdivide into dorsal and ventral rami. A spinal artery is visible entering through the intervertebral foramen into the vertebral canal for the supply of spinal cord, and intervertebral vein is receiving the venous blood of the spinal cord and surrounding structures and leaves through the intervertebral foramen. Applied anatomy related to spinal cord and related structures. Dura mater is also known as Pachy-Manning's, and pia mater and arachnoid mater both are known as leptomeninges. The inflammation of these two meninges, pia mater and arachnoid mater, is known as meningitis. Meningitis is characterized by fever, severe headache, neck rigidity, accompanied by delirium and convulsions, and changed biochemistry of CSF. The causes of meningitis may be tubercular or pyogenic, means bacteria of TB or other bacteria are also responsible for inflammation of meninges. Lumbar puncture. Lumbar puncture is an medical procedure which is done to take out CSF from the subarachnoid space for diagnostic purpose. In this procedure, a needle is inserted into the subarachnoid space between L3 vertebra and L4 vertebra in case of adults, and in case of infants and children, the needle is inserted between the vertebra L4 and L5, because in case of children Spinal cord reaches at the level of L3 vertebra. So here the spinal cord ends and needle is inserted below the end of spinal cord between L4 and L5 vertebra. Lumbar epidural. This procedure is same as that of the lumbar puncture, but the difference is that in this case, lumbar epidural, the needle is inserted up to the epidural space. Epidural space is the space present between dura mater and the vertebral canal. So in this case, needle is inserted up to this space, and this space is utilized for giving anesthesia. Tumors of vertebral canal compresses the spinal cord, which give rise to paraplegia or quadriplegia depending upon the level of compression. Paraplegia means loss of sensation and compression in the lower limbs, and quadriplegia means paralysis of all the four limbs. So in quadriplegia there is loss of sensation and functions in all the four limbs, both upper and both lower limbs. Spinal tumors have different origins. These may arise from dura mater, that is known as meningioma, glial cells that are known as glioma. Glial cells are the supporting cells of nervous tissue. Tumor may also arise from nerve roots that are known as neurofibroma, and these may also arise from ependyma known as ependymoma, and other tissues may also form the tumors. So apart from compression of the spinal cord, these tumors also causes obstruction in the subarachnoid space. So the pressure of CSF is low below the level of compression because less amount of CSF is passed below the level of compression. Compression of chorda equina gave rise to chorda equina syndrome, which includes paraplegia, means loss of sensation and function of lower limbs. Saddle anesthesia. Anesthesia develop in the area of perineum in the form of saddle or in the shape of saddle. And then sphincter disturbances, like there is loss of control over the sphincter of bladder and anus. Compression of the root of spinal nerve may be caused by prolapse of the intervertebral disc. Osteophytes. Osteophytes are the bony growths that develop at the edge of the bone. So such structures causes compression of the spinal nerves and causes shooting pain along the distribution of the nerve which is getting pressed. Next are the blood vessels which are present within the vertebral canal. So spinal arteries, which supplies the spinal cord and the surrounding structures. These have been already discussed with the blood supply of the brain and spinal cord. Veins, which are present within the vertebral canal and outside the vertebral canal or outer aspect of the vertebrae, anteriorly and posteriorly. These constitute vertebral system of vein. It is also known as vertebral venous plexus. Vertebral venous system is made up of valveless complicated network of veins which run in a longitudinal pattern along the length of the vertebral column. It runs parallel to the vertebral column and also to the superior and inferior vena cava, and it anastomoses with these two large venous channels, that is superior and inferior vena cava. This network has three intercommunicating subdivisions. First is the epidural plexus, which is present outside the dura mater. This is green color covering is the dura mater, and this plexus lies outer to the dura mater. Second is the plexus, which lies within the vertebral body, and third is external vertebral venous plexus, which is present behind the vertebra and in front of the body of the vertebra. Epidural plexus lies within the vertebral canal outside the dura mater. So this plexus is also known as Batson's plexus. The plexus consists of post-central part and pre-laminar part. Each portion is drained by two vessels, which are shown here. These are the vertical channels of epidural plexus, which run lengthwise, means along the length of the vertebral column, and drain this epidural plexus at different levels. Epidural plexus drains the structures present within the vertebral canal, and itself this plexus is draining into the segmental veins, which lies at different levels. At the level of thoracic vertebrae, that are known as posterior intercostal segmental veins, then lumbar segmental veins, and lateral sacral segmental veins. Second is plexus, which is present within the vertebral body. So a network of vessels or veins is present within the body of the vertebra, which drains the venous blood backward into epidural plexus and anterolaterally on both the sides. These are draining into external vertebral venous plexus. Third is external vertebral venous plexus. This plexus is present on the outer aspect of or outer surface of the vertebra. So in the diagram we can see on the anterolateral aspect of the body of the vertebra there is present a plexus. This is the anterior part of external vertebral venous plexus. On the back side behind the vertebral arch we can also see a network of veins. This is the posterior part of external vertebral venous plexus. The external vertebral venous plexus, either anterior or posterior, both are drained by segmental vein or directly by the inferior vena cava. Suboccipital plexus of veins is a part of external vertebral plexus. It lies in the suboccipital triangle. Suboccipital triangle is present in this area in the lower aspect of the vertebral of the occipital area of the skull. It receives venous blood of occipital veins of scalp, and it is also connected with the transverse venous sinus with the help of emissary veins. Emissary veins crosses through the skull bone and join it with the transverse venous sinus. The suboccipital plexus itself drains into internal jugular vein or the subclavian veins and ultimately drains into superior vena cava. Communication of this venous plexus. Valvulus vertebral system of veins communicates superiorly with the intracranial venous sinuses present within the skull, and inferiorly these communicate with the pelvic veins present in pelvis area. Portal vein, that is the abdominal venous channel, and the caval system of veins means superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. These veins are valveless and blood can flow in them in either direction. Any change in the intrathoracic or intra-abdominal cavity that is brought about by coughing or straining, etc., may cause flow of blood in the plexus away from the heart, either upwards or downwards. So such periodic changes in the venous pressure are clinically important because these make possible the spread of tumor or infections from the abdominal cavity or thoracic cavity towards the vertebral bodies. For example, if a patient is having tumor in the pelvic area, abdomen, thorax, or in the mammary gland, during such pressure changes like while coughing, sneezing, straining, etc., the cancer cells or tumor cells at that time may enter into these venous channels or vertebral system of veins and ultimately lodges in the vertebrae. These may also spread to the spinal cord, skull, and brain, because all these structures communicate with the vertebral system of veins. The most common type of tumor or cancer are of the breast and prostate, which spread in this manner and cause secondaries in the vertebrae. So the clinical anatomy related to these vertebral system of veins is that cancer of prostate and mammary gland can spread to the vertebral column and skull through this vertebral system of vein. Apart from cancer, other septic conditions may also spread to distant organs through vertebral system of veins, like in cases of chronic empyema. In chronic empyema, there is collection of pus within the pleural cavity. So in this condition also, the pus may get spread to the brain through this vertebral system of veins, because heart and lungs are interconnected through this vertebral system of veins.